What's up, good people? So that was my extremely fast Rush version of, we'll see if you can figure out what that solo is, if it even sounds like that. So today, we're going to talk about, you know those guys, or you know those guitars that you come across in your lifetime, and this dog, you have these guitars, and then like you sold one, and then you just immediately regretted it. You're just like, son of a gun, I got rid of that guitar, and I wish I never did. That happened to me twice with this guitar. So what this is the 2010 made in Japan EVH Wolfgang Special, okay? So I remember this guitar came out, because this is now, you gotta remember, Eddie was with, God, this dog, take it. He was with, he built his own guitars, technically, Charvel, technically for a bit, Kramer, then from Kramer to Ernie Ball, from Ernie Ball to PV, from PV to Fender. So when he got with Fender, I believe to launch his time with Fenders when they came out with the Master Build Frankie. I think that was in 2006, give or take, somewhere around there. But then Eddie went on his reunion tour with David Lee Roth back in 2007, which I saw in Louisville, Kentucky, which was awesome. And that was the first time I got to see Van Halen actually in concert, and I was just in awe. But the reason why I bring up the 2007 reunion tour is because he was with Fender at that time, and he was playing his prototypes of the Wolfgangs from Fender. And so he was playing there was like an ivory one, he had a black one, and then also they ended up later coming out with this tobacco burst, okay? So I had to have one, obviously. So I think the guitar, because they had the special version and then they had the USA version. And the thing you got to remember about these guitar companies, guys, is they come out with the specials and the standards and whatever other names you want to call it, or if it's Ibanez, it's like 300 bajillion different digits. But the reason why they make them in different places, guys, is because it's all about the money. If they can build it cheaper somewhere else and give it to you for a more affordable price, where they happen to make just as much money, if not more, then that's what they're going to do. You know what I mean? So when it's made in Korea or Japan or Mexico or whatever else, it's to get it at a better price point, because maybe the labor's cheaper, or maybe the parts are cheaper, or whatever else. And guitars come such a long way over the years that now guitars nowadays are built really, really well. So, and that's been that way for some time now, but a lot of these guitars, man, if they're built necessarily in Korea or made in Mexico or Japan, like, these guitars play like butter. I mean, they are really great quality and very sought after. I mean, you can get really great guitars for very affordable prices nowadays, okay? So anyway, this guitar is a 2010 or 2010 Wolfgang Special. And when they came out, I remember seeing these in the shelves at Guitar Center and Sam Ash and all that stuff, and just thinking, my God, if I had the money. I think they're around maybe like $1,300 or something like that, give or take. $1,300 for one. And I just thought that they were that they were fantastic. Here, go get it, this dog. And love this guitar. And I just thought, man, if I ever had the money for one, I would totally get it. And so the very first one I actually ever got was a few years later, but it's still the 2010 Japan model. And I ended up getting the ivory one, because that was the one I saw Ed play. I was like, well, I gotta get what Ed plays, right? And I got it, and for whatever reason, man, I don't know if it's because I wasn't playing it that much, but at that time I wasn't even necessarily a super duper good guitar player. You know, I was still in the realm of thinking like, ooh, if I buy this guitar, I'm gonna sound like Joe Blow over here. It's gonna entice me to want to play better or whatever else. And I still just wasn't up to that capability yet. It wasn't a problem with the guitar, it was so much a problem with me, and it just went psychological. So I sold it. Well then, immediately regretting selling it, I think it was maybe like another year later, I went out and I got the all black one. Not a stealth. Sorry, my laundry just went off. I got so it was a black body and black matching headstock. Same components, same parts, and everything else. And I got that. And for whatever reason, I friggin' sold that one. And these guitars back in the day, I mean, you used to be able to get them used for like $800, sometimes $700. I mean, I saw them super low and had gift of hindsight, I would have bought them back then, right? And I've never been a huge fan of here, get it. I've never been a huge fan of bursts usually like on Les Pauls I like bursts or something like that. But for the Wolfgangs, I was never a huge fan of the burst guitars for whatever reason. So I'm sitting there looking across Reverb and eBay, late at night like you normally would as a guitar fanatic or Eddie fanatic or just gearhead in general. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking through it, and I come across this 2010, again, made in Japan Wolfgang. And I always wanted to get one, somewhere down the line again. And I remember seeing these up again on the shelves, but I always thought the tops were freaking nuts. I mean, the lighting in here does not do this thing any justice at all. But I mean, look at that top. I mean, that is a beautiful top on this guitar. I mean, just blew me away on this thing. You know what I mean? Maybe you can see a little bit better there. But the top blew me away, and I was just like, take my money. And these guitars now are going anywhere from, $1,600, $1,700. I've seen people asking $2,000. Calm down. Too much. But I'd say a fair price point is anywhere, I'd say, between $1,400 and $1,600 for these guitars nowadays. They're still making guitars over in Japan. I think most of them are made in like Indonesia nowadays. But I always really liked the necks on these guitars too. Again, I don't know why I got rid of the other two, man. That's so stupid of me. But I got this guitar because the top, and I also got it because of the neck, because I remember these things I just remember really enjoying the neck, and again, I sold it, again, for whatever reason, both of them, but the necks, I loved on them. And these EVH Floyd Roses really hold up, I mean, compared to the ones that they're putting on there now. Like, some of it's kind of like hit or miss. Some of them are good, some of them just need a setup, some of them, I don't know, but back then, like, these things were killer guitars. So I just wanted to kind of go on that little rant as far as this guitar, why I bought it, and how I've come across it for the years. But these guitars are getting harder and harder to find, so I mean, look at that. But I suggest that you pick them up because the price value is just going to continue to go up on these things. As you've seen everything else unfortunately since Eddie's passing, like a lot of these guitars are they're just going up in value. They're finally starting to come down a little bit, but there's still a lot of people just trying to retire tomorrow, I guess. off of these things. So just be careful what you pay. I mean, if you got the money and you can afford it and it's exactly what you want and you can't find anywhere else, then by all means, you live once. Freaking go buy the thing. But, you know, if it's going to break the bank and not put food on the table, again, use your best judgment, guys. You know, don't be stupid. Yeah, so I'll kind of go over the specs of this guitar. Again, you can find that stuff online, but again, I mean, what's the point in doing this video if I don't at least, you know, tell you all about it? So I don't know exactly how long they had made the Japan run. It may have been from like 2010 to maybe like the 2014-ish. And I believe still some of the Wolfgangs today are still made in Japan. Like they just came out with the signature models now made in Japan. I bet those guitars are freaking phenomenal. They're almost $3,000, so for me, for the price point, for an extra $1,000, you might as well get the made in USA one. But Japan and Mexico, and Korea too, but really Japan and Mexico, and I'd say probably more so Mexico's a front runner, they make some of the best playing guitars I've ever played in my life. And that's not to poop on USA guitars, but again, for the money, you're gonna be hard pressed to convince me otherwise that there's somewhere else made that plays better than those. Okay? At least from what I've been playing throughout my life and to my knowledge. I'm sure that there's maybe some guitar place in New Guinea and they make great guitars. I don't know, but that's a third world country. I'm not sure. Prove me wrong. But look at that. I just can't get over the top. That's the whole reason why I got it. Really, honestly, it was cosmetically and because I like the neck. But the reason why I went the tobacco burst was because of the top. So without further ado, it is a basswood body. It is a very, not extremely light guitar, but it is a light guitar. It is a quilted maple top. I mean, look at the flame in that. I'd say it's every bit of a 4A flame. You know, it ain't no 3, that's for sure, at least on this one. I've seen some that are a little bit flamier than others, but the tops on these in the 2010s are nuts. It's like not quite like a 59 Les Paul. We do get the gist. Like, certain tops just look phenomenal. And again, it's a veneer. You know, it's nothing special. It's not like it's a 1/2 inch maple top or a 1/4 inch. It's a veneer, which is just a very thin paper coating where they just very slice off that wood and then they put it on here and they glue it and they give it binding and all that. But again, I mean, that's where they save the money. But I mean, look, it looks killer. I mean, how do you know if it's a 1/2 inch or not? Who gives a shit? It sounds awesome, right? So anyway, basswood body, quilted maple veneer. It's a tobacco burst, like I said, which I was never really 100% fond of until later it grew on me. The pickups are Wolfgang pickups. Now, maybe to your ears, I don't know. From Wolfgangs that I've played, these pickups are not as hot as the stuff that they put out today. Maybe it's because, I don't know if these are Alnico 5 magnets, but I know a lot of the stuff they put out now are Alnico 5s, and that's a lot harder output. I'd say these really have a very nice mid-range. I think the only effect I really had on there was a little bit of extra delay. The pickups, they're not quite as hot. They're very mid-range, boosty, very warm sounding. I mean, great pickups. It's a great sounding guitar as well. Let's see what else. These are the Bourns, B-O-U-R-N-S, Bourns frictionless pots. Now, these aren't the EVH pots, but I think EVH is essentially the Bourns frictionless pots. But I did notice on all of the Wolfgangs that I had from the 2010, these things, like, you look at it and it moves. That's kind of a knock, I'm not gonna lie. Because sometimes I'm sitting there playing and all of a sudden the tone knob, like if I'm, doing this or doing that, I'll notice the tone knob just starts to kind of gradually roll off. And I'm like, what the hell? Now again, can you change that? 100%, yeah, you can change it. And it'd be a cheap change. It's nothing that's gonna break the bank to change the capacitors or the potentiometers on these things, okay? But it's just something to consider. But I'm gonna keep this completely stock. With the exception of the eye hooks. Somebody put those on. I don't blame them because they're Ed heads, and I like eye hooks on my guitars anyway because of Eddie. It's functional, this or that. Now the Floyds, this again is the EVH branded Floyd, and it does have the D-tuna. And the thing to keep in mind with these D-tunas, guys, is that these work so much better with the EVH brand Floyds. When you put it on an Asha Floyd Rose, don't do it yourself. It is a pain in the ass. Take it to a guitar tech and pay them loads of money to get it done, because it sucks. They don't really want to work with original Floyd Roses, and the EVH brand ones are inspired by the original Floyd, so I'm not really sure what the confusion is or why it's not just plug and play. Again, it can be done. I have some on mine, but it's just a pain in the butt. But with these things, they're just flawless. So just, keep that in mind if you're going to put a detune on your guitar. 3-way toggle switch. Back is the bridge, up is the neck, middle is obviously both. What else? The neck. The neck does have some beautiful bird's eye maple in it. Some you'll see a little bit flaming in others. It's supposed to be a 2A bird's eye maple flame. Like I said, but some are a little bit more than others, but it's just strictly the fretboard. As you can see, look at that. See the flame here and how it ends, and then you do have the back here, which I believe is just quarter sawn maple, just because of the grain. It looks quarter sawn because you start to see kind of almost like a flame across it. That's how a way you can kind of tell it's almost like a quarter sawn maple. It's just barely flaming. Man, that thing is going to drive me nuts. Sorry, guys. And it's just going to keep going off too. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves. That dropping your car keys when your hands are full really sucks. And then another one on a tangent is washing your chapstick and drying it and ruining all your clothes. Can anyone else relate to that kind of hate? Like, shit, that sucks. Neither here nor there. If I think about that long enough, those 3 things are going to put me in an extremely foul mood. I know, there's worse things in life, right? The back is like this, I wouldn't say cherry, but it's like a darker brown, almost cherry tint. Not really sure what to call that back color. And I'm not really sure that the lighting is doing this the justice that it deserves for you to really be able to tell. But as you can kind of see, it's just a different kind of shade of brown, right? It's almost like a maroony brown. Maybe I just made that up. Look at the matching headstock here. Comes with the EVH tuners, and this is another thing that drove me nuts when this guitar first came out, right? So I'm used to the PVs and this and that, which has this little scoop here, but there's still wood that exists. It almost looks like an indent almost of wood, right? Well, then obviously Eddie had rights to the body shape, okay? So when he left PV, he helped design that, so he had the rights to that body design. But he had to redo the headstock, right? Because that'd be copyrighted by PV. So what he did was he had them just remove that piece of wood. It's still the same exact head shape as prior on the PVs, but I hated this. I ain't even gonna lie, I hated it when it first came out. I was like, that looks so stupid. And now looking back at it, I think the PV one looks dumber than this one, right? This one looks, like, again, it's one of those things that grew on me over the years. I was like, my God, that's a sick looking headstock. But before, I ain't gonna lie to you guys, I hated it. You remember when Guitar Hero came out? Me and my buddy, we called that out too. We were like, they're gonna come out with a Van Halen Guitar Hero. You can just wait. And blew our mind. That was the closest I think we ever got to playing like Eddie, ever. And still probably sucked on that. And man, some of those levels, like Eruption, that was way harder to play in Guitar Hero than it was in real life. That's the most frustrating thing about Guitar Hero. Like, this isn't really that hard on real guitar. Neither here or there, okay? But anyway, they had the Wolfgangs on there. They had kind of like some Frankie-styled guitars, but they had this damn headstock on it, and I thought it just ruined it. I really did. It drove me nuts. I hated it. But like I said, then over the years, your tastes change. You like different things. Whatever. It grew on me. Love the headstock now. And this guitar came with a really cool case. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's like the flight cases. It's black. It's striped. I don't feel like grabbing mine. They're out there. You can take a look. But it's got like the nice red vinyl inside. It's perfectly foam fitted. And again, for $12.99 or whatever it was back in the day, that was a hell of a deal for this guitar. And my dog just wiped his nose all over this. Let's see what else. What else is cool and happening? I don't know. I mean, this is one of those guitars, man, that I suggest you go out there and get. And I believe the only difference between this and the USA model, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, which it could be. I don't think I am. But the only difference between this and the USA model is two things. One, it's an arch top. Okay, so you actually do get like more, it's an actual maple top, whether it be quilted maple or flame or whatever, but I think it was like the same colors. It was still the ivory black and I think a sunburst one, but it's actually an arch top. So this is completely a flat top, right? And again, this is a veneer, but towards the bridge, you'll kind of see where there's an arch. So that's the way you can tell it's a USA model, is if it's an arch top as far as these. They've come out with later models now that have arch tops that are still made overseas or Mexico or whatever else. But another way you can tell the difference between one overseas and a USA model is also the headstock. So if you look at this headstock, there's very little, just wood here, just barely on the edge, right? Well, on the USA versions, there's actually binding. So like this binding is actually around, you know, the headstock, okay? I think the ivory made ones kind of even has like a black, like double pinstripe lining on the inside, and it's the binding still on the out and this and that. But that's literally, I think, the only difference between those and these in that time period. And you know, those guitars now are going for anywhere between about $2,500 to $3,000. So eventually, I think I might get a USA one. To this day, I've still never owned a USA Wolfgang. I don't even think I've played one, which is sad to say considering how many Wolfgangs I own and EVH guitars I've had through the years. But it is on my bucket list of things to get. But again, I don't have, you know, $3,000 and $4,000 to go spending on, you know, random guitars right now. So again, you know, and the thing about all these guitars, guys, is this has taken time. This has taken a lot of hours of work. It's taken a lot of trading. It's taken a lot of saving. It's taken a lot of good breaks coming my way. You know, so it's not like, you know, I just inherited this stuff or whatever else. And again, for people that do, I mean, more power to you. You're super blessed, count your blessings, you know, but I'm extremely blessed to have the guitars that I have. I'm very proud of them. You know, I do have an issue and a problem because I collect, and I have probably too many guitars, but any person that says they have too many guitars wants more guitars, and I 100% do. I'm trying to get Halen to be quiet because we're about to end this. But did I even? Oh, I'm getting out of hand here. Another thing about the neck, that's cool thing about these guitars is the frets. They're stainless steel frets and they're vintage frets, meaning they're basically smaller. Now that someone's got a leaf blow, what the hell between him, leaf blowing? It's just like, what's going on? This is my fourth pet peeve. Distractions. There's no tree in front of my door. So I felt the need to literally blow the door. Like it's Big Bad Wolf out there or something. I don't know. Anyway, back on track. Stainless steel frets. They're vintage frets. Smaller frets. I'm not 100% sure on the frets, but I think that's like 6230s maybe. Maybe in another video we can go over fret sizes and stuff like this, because it is something to know as far as, because anything on a guitar is customizable, but especially when you get your necks, you know, if you're building a neck or you want to get a replacement neck or something like that, you know, once you've been playing for a while and you start to play different guitars, you'll notice that different frets sizes might help your playing or make a guitar feel easier to play, help you with bends, different things. Again, not end the world. I mean, if you can play, you can play. You can play a Hello Kitty guitar. But you know, it's all about preference. And again, maybe in a later video, we'll talk about, you know, custom building your own guitars and stuff like that. Any guitar up to this point, I've pretty much done custom builds on all the EVH stuff. But I finally wanted to kind of go over one that's, Halen, get off of that. That's in stock, or I mean, completely stock and just great as it is. And like I said, these 2010 Wolfgangs, man, get them, whether it's a USA, a Special, or whatever else. They made plenty of them. It's not like they're hard to find. It's just they don't come up really too often, but they're going to get more and more scarce. And like I said, they're great guitars, so a lot of people are really going to hold on to them because they're just great guitars, especially for the money. Really think that's it. This is going to be a shorter video today because I don't have to go back down in like the building process of X, Y, Z and how you do it. This is just you buy it and it is what it is. Like I said, I wouldn't upgrade anything on this guitar except for maybe the tone knob. I'm not really a tone knob kind of guy. I don't roll it off. I don't scoop stuff or whatever else. But phenomenal guitar. Get your hands on one. If you know someone, go play it yourself. See what you think. But again, I highly, highly recommend the 2010s, especially. And they're going to be probably worth more money just because that was the first run of the Fender Wolfgangs. So again, you never know what you got until years later. 59 Les Pauls back in the day, people didn't really know that they were going to be worth a butt ton of money either. And back then, Les Paul was super struggling. They even canceled the Les Paul for a period of time and then brought it back. So again, you never know what gems you got, right? So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, if you have any thing you want to know or whatever else, hit me up per usual. I hope you guys are doing great. And I'm going to get off here. I'm going to go kill the leaf blower guy. I'm going to go destroy my dryer. And I'm going to go play with my dog before he loses his mind. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. You have a good day. Keep doing whatever it is you do. Peace.